Shalom. First, I want to start off by giving all honor, praises, and infinite glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. I want to give double honors into the elders, apostles, and bishops of GMS Great Millstone who rule well, teach, and edify. And peace and blessings to sincere Akim or Akwat in his household of faith. My name is Ashaya of the GMS Arizona Church and not a one Ratazah. Gonna make an edifying video. And going into this headline that I was meditating on through the Spirit. It says talking about the problem to the people that are the problem is always a problem. Okay. And, chiefly prophecy, but even, smaller things, man. You talk about the food system here. You talk about how you're supposed to structure a diet. You talk about exercise. You talk about how bugged out these gyms are. You know, women be all out there ass naked with the plastic latex and shit. Or you go into, you know, the housing economy, how it's busted up and how it's not supposed to be this way. If you talk about anything scriptural, man, anything that has to do with a high level of spiritual thinking and understanding about the position that we're in this world, knowing that, Job 9 and 24, man, the wicked is in rule of this place, man. You talk about any of these things to these people, they're a part of this fucking system. There has to be a left hand there just as much as there has to be a right hand. There has to be a wrong just as much as there has to be a right. And that's what the Lord's coming to correct. He's coming to correct that left hand. And he's showing us, how stupid and how vexing it is, to even be around these people. That's why scriptures say, just like vex with the filthy conversation of the wicked. Because it's like, for example, man, I had a conversation, just a quick one, and I had to shut the shit down quick. I was talking to this nurse at my job. I says, I don't know if I would like to live in this place forever, because he was talking about, 5-year plan and all that dumb shit. So I'm out here just joshing. I says, you know, I don't think I would want to live here forever, because he's talking about going to college and all this and that. And I was like, I'd rather live in Italy. And he was like, why? Well, I don't really like this place. Everything's screwed up, the food system's screwed up. Granted, this guy's about 5'9", 350 pounds, not doing nothing better. He'll make a meal prep and eat 2 packs of ramen with it. Food's not all that bad, And I was like, and I've never really been that patriotic. So you don't appreciate your country? My father's father was a slave. I don't appreciate none of you devils, man. I grew up hearing stories about my father saying, what this devil has done to him. And ultimately, that's the judgment of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. But it just adds layers to like, nigga, fuck you, you know? And, he just keeps on going on and on how you should be patriotic and how you should appreciate this place. And it's like talking to a petrified tree. You might as well just turn the fuck around and just spend your time better, man. So not to rant too much, I want to grab some scriptures, man. This is Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 12 in the NLT. And Elder Kassad brought this out in camp, and thought this was a real heavy script in the NLT. It says their responsibility is to equip Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai's people. We're out here for the elect. Not for the multitude perish which are born in vain. A lot of these idiots are never gonna get it, man, because they're spiritually discerned. The Lord cut them off. The Lord completely cut them off. They got that pineal gland seared. About as just as seared as a damn McDonald's they be eating. These people you keep like this is the same guy that will say, "Oh man, I seen McDonald's and the Epstein files." About a couple days later, I seen this idiot eating a Big Mac. This is the thing, man. We can't talk about the problem to the people that are the problem. You know, Ultimately, we're gonna talk the truth regardless of whether they hear, whether they forbear. But when it comes to just being at work and being on your daily dues, having conversations with these idiots is just vexing. You really get nowhere with these people, man. And if you and even these women too, and not trying to be Captain Saberho, You know, you tell a woman how to do a little parasite cleanse. You tell a woman how to do, proper exercise. You tell a woman that she can help her menstrual cycles with this herb and that herb. They don't give a damn about what you're saying. You know, they just worried about the next time they gonna get some Dutch Bros. You know, this place is hellish, and and these people are all just on an extremely low level. I think in this faith, sometimes you can overestimate the spirituality of the people around you. Like you can't possibly be this idiotic, because you get around brothers, man, and brothers is on high levels, so you just kind of like in that state. But this is verse 13. Well, no, back to 12. It says their responsibility is to equip the Lord's people to do His work and build up the church, the body of a Mashiach. See, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna let this person get in the car. Anyways, it says the responsibility is to equip the Lord's people to do His work to build up the church, the body of a Mashiach. These heathens, even having conversations with them, he was always this with, it's just worthless. They're not even a part of the body. You know, these devils are going to be put into to captivity, where they rightfully belong. Okay, and it says to build up the body of a Mashiach, and Israel's a backsliding nation. You can tell the Jake that, oh, you need to stop smoking, put off that Cesare Borgia, take that Jesus piece off, you know, and all these different things. And then next week you see this nigga talking about he a Muslim. You know, that's the thing, man. We can't, expend all this spiritual energy to where it doesn't even do anything. You sow the seed. That's why the scriptures say, first or second admonition reject. If you keep on having to pound something into somebody, the Lord just doesn't, the Lord don't feel like watering that person. Apollo sowed the seed and the Lord gave the increase. You know, a lot of these people are just, not every tree can grow. You know, if you have a field of trees, there's a certain threshold where trees just can't grow within a certain distance of each other. One tree's gonna sprout and one has to just lay there dead. You know, and the Lord is building up His olive tree. It says that in Second Ezra, the ninth chapter, I believe. A grape from a cluster and a tree, roughly paraphrase. Let me see if it says that. So double check it. This is Second Ezra chapter 9 and verse 26. It says, uh, did I get that right? Nope. 21. It says, and I saw and spared it greatly, and have kept me a grape of a cluster and a plant of a great people. And I believe in the GNC it says an olive tree of a forest. You know, and that's the thing. So you're not only, Lord willing to be a part of the elect, you're not just a tree, you're a special tree. With all that being said, we're made for a special reason. And these people are never going to be able to elevate to that level because the Lord ain't dealing with them. They ain't going through shit. They're not tried in the furnace of adversity. They're not built with these scriptures. Their foundation isn't the chief cornerstone of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Their foundation is Esau Edom. They on that Lamentations 4 spirit. They on that happy-go-lucky, I love Babylon bullshit. We can never be equal to these people, and that's why the Lord has told us, can two walk together lest they be agreed? And that's the thing. These people are gonna have their own opinions. They're gonna have their own thoughts, processes. But if we agree with them, then we be wrong too. So fuck them. You know. And that's the thing. Going back to the 13th verse, it says, "This will continue until we all come to such unity in our faith and knowledge of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua's Son, Salakia, Yahweh's Son, that we will be mature in the Lord." Being mature in the Lord, man. Like a spiritual adult. Because brothers got brought in. I'm a spiritual baby. But learning under brothers and going through the chastisements of the Lord, and you know, being steadfast in His faith. My bones are growing. I'm getting stronger. Them cells are creating. That's those spiritual roots are being, established in the ground, man. And with all that being said, we not out here to water these dead trees. We're not out here to worry about these people, man. We out here to call forth the elect, to say that, to spread this truth. But talking about the problem to the people that are the problem, they're never gonna come to understanding what the problem is, man. The Lord has shut them out, and you Jakes out there, you reprobate silver as Jakes. The scriptures talk about in Ezekiel how those that are dross, the Lord's gonna dip you in there and He's gonna burn you away. Right? The Lord is coming to save few and destroy. That's why the scriptures say, the world to come is made, or the world now is made for many, but the world to come is made for few. You know, few. All right. This is reading on. It says, in measuring up to the full and complete standard of Hamashiach, there's a standard that you have to even meet to have the spirit, man, because the Lord sends that spirit upon a man. And he, Lord ain't just gonna send that spirit to anybody, man. It's a special thing that we possess the spirit in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And we thank the Lord daily. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai for the spirit to be able to be in his faith, to put on righteousness to the best of our ability in the most wicked captivity we've been in, you know? And these people, the people around us, we always just gotta, as brothers say, watch who's around you. Watch those worldly ties, man. You know, even these people are just straight leaven. They damn near not even a bread loaf. They just straight leaven. All they got is wickedness in them, man. They candida, you know. And we have to be careful about letting them, try to get up in the spirit, man, because they're parasitic. Most of these people, they just see, you know, you and your energy, and they just like, damn, I'm just drawn to this person. But then that gets perverted because they just want to start taking away from that person. They want to start putting you down. They want to start saying what you doing ain't right. They want to start saying that, this and that. They want to start calling you a devil. They called Yahweh Shai, saying that he was a Beelzebub, man. That he was doing these miracles in the name of Baal, you know? And you have to be spiritual to understand that this is all a part of the humility process that those of the Lord is going to have to go through. Because ultimately we went off. But with all that being in humility, we must take the low and prepare ourselves for many more difficult times. And these people around us don't fucking help, you know? But I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to last to give all honor, praises, and infinite glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh, Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodah, Shalom.